Welcome. I am very happy that you have come back to join me in another video tutorial. In this tutorial we will be making a belt bag. The yarns that we will be using, these two right here, are from Michael's Impeccable. One is a gold color and one is a beige color. This yarn is from AJ Moore or AC Moore, and it's their brand Studio Samples by Nicole. We'll also be using a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a size K or a 10.5 hook, buttons with the shank on it, and some stitch markers. Before we begin, I want to point out to you that all of the yarn that we use through this particular belt bag needs to be doubled. So I'm going to pull out the center skein from the skein, and I'm going to pull the outside one here if I can find it. Here it is. And the majority of our bag is in gold, so I'm going to take and double it up and proceed to make a yarn ball from it. Okay, I encourage you to do this. Now if you choose not to, you can use it from the skein, but you'll need to make a yarn ball with the gold, the blue, and with a small amount of the beige. I did not do the whole yarn skein. I did quite a bit of it though, so let's get started. We're going to start, have a small tail. Our little bag here will be made in 3 pieces, and so the first one that we're going to start with is our back piece. I'm going to unload some of the yarn. So let's begin. Let's start with a chain of 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And in our second chain, do not count the one on the hook. 1, 2, place your first single crochet. Continue across to the end of the row and you'll have 13 single crochets. Pause your video and we'll join here. At the end of our row, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. In this first opening right here, this first chain, we're going to place 2 single crochets. There's 1 and 2. We're going to continue across till we get to this last one here, and I'll show you what to do. I have done 13 single crochets so far. In this last stitch here, we're going to place 2, and that'll give us 15 single crochets for the completion of this row. Chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, you may be asking, why are we doubling our yarn? With this belt bag, it is a good idea to have extra protection, especially for carrying your cell phone. And this is the reason why I have chosen to double the yarn. Okay, so our next one, after we chained our one, we're going to do the same thing we did on the last row. We're going to place 2 single crochets in this first stitch. We're going to go all the way across and place 2 in the last one. You should have 17 on this row when complete. You'll notice that we have our slight curve here. This will be used when we sew our side piece on. So now that we have 17, we are not going to make any more increases. So let's chain 1 and turn. For the next 5 rows, we're going to have 17 stitches for each row. When you get to the end of your 5th row of 17 only, we need to put stitch markers on both sides. So I will meet you then. Go ahead and do 5 rows. At the end, you would start here to count 1, 2, 3, and you should have a total of 8 rows at the end of your 5th row of 17 single crochets. Pause your video and let's get to it. So at the end of our rows we have this little piece, and what I would like for you to do is place a stitch marker on one end into the stitching and a stitch marker at the other end. What this will do is it will tell us where we need to put our sides at. I know you haven't seen them yet. They're very fun. Alright, so our next row, what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a closure. So we're going to skip these first 2 and we're going to slide it all the way across and single crochet in that first one. Okay, so we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, now we're going to stretch all the way across. We're going to skip these 2 and we're going to place 1 single crochet in that last stitch. So this row you will have 13 single crochets. Okay, and we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to skip these first 2, and in the third one we're going to start our single crochets again. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have 3 left. We're going to skip these 2 and single crochet in that last one. Okay, so we had 9 in this row. Chain 1 and turn. And we're going to do it again. We're going to skip the first 2, and in that third one, single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and here we have these 2 we're going to skip. So here we're going to have 4 in this row. Okay, chain 1 and turn. So this is what we have. we've created a very long decrease. So we have 4 stitches across here. We're going to do 4 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're going to be doing the 4 single crochets for another row or 2. There's 3 and 4. We're going to do it one more row, so we will do 4 single crochets for a total of 3 rows. Okay, so on our last row, what I would like for you to do is, if your shank button is still on its paper, we're going to make some chain stitches to go around this, because that's what our closure is going to be. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 5 and see how that works. So I'm going to do 5 and place a single crochet over here on this side. Now if it doesn't work, I can always take it out. Okay? And this is what you will be doing for your button too. So depending on what size button you have chosen, you may do some more chains. So if I bring this over that button, yes, it will hold it nicely. Okay? So 5 is good for me, and I did a single crochet here, but I'm going to pull that out and I'm going to change it to a slip stitch. Oops. Okay, so let me go back in here. I'm going to turn my work. I'm going to go through and pull up a slip stitch. Okay, and then I'm going to leave me a nice little tail. And cut it. And I will take my tapestry needle and weave it in the back here. So this is our back piece. And this is what it looks like. Let's get ready to do our side piece. So before we begin, I'm going to show you what we're going to do in my little instructions here. We're going to start with a chain of 6, and then we're going to skip the first and do 5 single crochets. And for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rows, we will be increasing 1 stitch at every time. So we're going to do 2 single crochets and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch and then 2 single crochets. So if you want to pause the video and keep note of this, that's what's going on. When we get down here to this row where it says 6 single crochets, of course I didn't write it all in, you do 2 in the next and 6 single crochets. That'll give you 14. And for 14 single crochets, we will do that for 16 rows, and then we'll start our decrease. It's basically the same as this, just we'll be doing 6 single crochets and 2 together. So we'll do a single crochet in one, a single crochet in the other, and make a decrease out of it, and I'll show you how to do that then. And here's the rest till we get back down to 5. So when we're done, our little piece, well, this is a little overboard, but it will kind of spread out a little bit and then it'll come back. And here's our little 2 pieces that we're going to be doing. So if you want, you can pause the video right here and that'll get you started. But for those, I'm going to go ahead and show you what to do. And here's the decrease side. This is the decrease. This is the increase. So let's get started. So to begin, I always encourage you to have a short tail, and let's place a slip knot. Now this segment of the video will go quite quickly as well as continuous up to the 14 single crochets, or as long as my GoPro battery will hold out. So let's start. We're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and in our second chain from the hook, do not count the one on there, we're going to place our first single crochet, and we'll single crochet the rest of the row, giving us a total of 5 single crochets. Here's number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now before you go on ahead of me, I know you have the instructions on what to do. We're going to chain 1 and turn, but let's tell you what we're going to do so that you can have the same look as what I'm doing. We're only going to go into the back loop of our stitch, of our chains up here. You got your front loop and you got your back loop. We're going to go into the back one. The whole thing on this side piece is all in the back loop. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and 2 single crochet. The next loop we're going to place 2 single crochet, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Okay, so we've added 1 in this row already. Let's turn our work, and according to our instructions we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and in the next stitch we're going to do 2. 1 and 2. And then we have 3 single crochets for the rest of the row. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn. For our next row, we're going to do 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3. You'll also notice that all our increases are right here in the center of our work. So in our next stitch we'll do 2 single crochet and 3 separate single crochets to finish our row out. Chain 1 and turn. Our next row we will start with 3 single crochet. Our next stitch we'll get 2, 1, 2, and we will complete this row with 4 single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. Okay, so to start this row we're going to start with 4, and in our next stitch 2 single crochet. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 singles out our row. Chain 1 and turn. Now I do want to remind you, if I am crocheting too fast for you, to please pause the video so you can catch up, so that we can continue on. I didn't want to make this video too long, but this particular piece does have a lot of changes in each row. Okay, so let's start our new row. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to place 2 in that next stitch, and looks like we're going to finish it out with 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're almost done with our increases. Okay, so chain 1 and turn. We're going to do 5 single crochets to begin this row. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, we're going to do 2 in the next stitch. 1, 2, and then we'll finish this row out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 single crochets. Whoops. Make sure you pick up both loops, like I almost didn't. I hope you enjoy this little bag when we are done with it. I think it will be really fashionable, especially to carry your cell phone, your wallet, your keys, your ID. Okay, so our next row we chain 1 and turn, and let's start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in the next two, we want to do, in the next stitch, we want to do 2 single crochet. Okay, so to finish out our row, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 1 and turn. So this row, on this increase, we should end up with 14 stitches. So we're going to start off with 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in our next stitch we place 2 single crochet. And let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So this will be our last row of increases. Alrighty, chain 1 and turn, and this is what we have so far. Alright, so let's go ahead and do our 14 single crochets. We're going to do a couple stitches at first, and then I would like for you get out a couple of stitch markers and mark that first row. Okay, so continue with the 14 stitches for this row, just 1 single crochet per stitch, and when we get to the end, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're going to do 14 stitches per row for the next 16 rows. 16 rows will go pretty quick. Okay, so to make sure that you don't count off, I suggest placing 1 on both sides. Now these stitch markers do not go with this, okay? this is for something else. So this right here is to start the beginning of our 14 stitches for 16 rows. So as you chain, or as you turn, chain 1 and 14 in the back loop continuously for 16 rows. Go ahead and pause your video and I'll see you in a few seconds. And this is what we have at the end of 16 rows. Here's my markers and the 16 rows. We're going to start our decrease, and let me bring up my paperwork again. So after our 16 rows, here's our decreases. If you choose to go ahead of me, that's fine. Pause your video. The numbers specify here to start of the row. This is 6, 1 decrease, and 6. And we're going to end with 5 single crochets. But if you want to follow me for these decreased rows, I will go at my speed and I will tell you what we're going to do. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start with 6 back post single crochets. Here's number 5, and here is number 6. Okay, so to make our decrease, we're going to do single crochet 2 together. So we're going to draw up a loop as if we were going to do our single crochet, and then we're going to draw up the second loop in the second stitch. Okay, so we have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over and go through all 3. And that will decrease us by 1, and here is the 1 stitch that we will follow right here. So continuing on, we're going to have 6 back post single crochets, and if I don't remind you, at the end of every row we have a chain 1 and turn. So our next row, we're going to start with 6 single crochets again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And here we're going to make another decrease. See, this is that one we did our decrease over. So we're going to yarn up 1, and into the second stitch, yarn up 1, and then through all 3. And then we're going to do 5. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're going to find that this will go pretty quickly. So to begin this row, we're going to do 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 decrease, drop a loop, drop the second loop, yarn over through all 3. And we have 5 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Chain 1 and turn. So for this row, we're going to start off with 4 instead of 5. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do a decrease. and then we're going to do 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And our next row, we will start off with 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and our decrease, yarn up for 1, yarn up for the second one, yarn through all 3, and we have 4 single crochets left. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Chain 1, do your turn. Okay, so this time, let's see, I just did 4 and 4, so this time we're going to do 3, 1, 2, 3, let's see, make sure I got this right, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, okay, so 3 single crochets, and then we're going to do our decrease, and then we'll do 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 1 and turn. We're almost done with this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have our decrease, drop 1 loop, and then the second one, drop your second loop, yarn through all 3, got 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn. Alright, 1, 2, 3. So this time we're going to start off with 2. 1, 2, and our decrease, 1 and 2, and then we have 3 left. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1 and turn. This time we're starting off with 2. 1, 2. We got our decrease, and we're almost done with this side. 1, 2. Chain 1 and turn. Well, before we turn, double check, make sure you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this row we do no decreases. We're going to do 5 single crochets. And this is the end of our side piece. Okay, leave a little tail. Here's my scissors. And now you can admire what you have just done. Okay, you notice that there is a little bulk here. That's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to fold it, and it's going to fit around this piece here. Okay, so this is the bottom of the purse, so this will cup up like this, and then it will, the sides will go like this as well. Okay, we have one more piece we need to make, and then we will start assembling. So get your beige. This is your next color, and you don't need a lot of it, but you do need to double your yarn, and I usually take from the inside and from the outside, and since we don't need that much, you don't need to make a ball. You can just take the band off of your yarn and go that way. Okay, so let's get started on that. And before we move on, I did want to bring up that you will need to double this one as well if you choose to use this particular studio samples. If you use the same type of yarn of this in blue, a 4-ply, you'll need to double it as well. I wanted to show you this. This is something I've never seen before. They took this yarn and they tied it to this, and here's the center piece. I don't know where it's going. And here's the outside one. So if you ever run into something like that, I'm sorry you had to experience that, but it makes me wonder what the yarn person was thinking that day when they threw that one skein together that just didn't work right. So I'm going to be a few minutes here. I decided not to play that game, so I'm going with a Michaels Impeccable in, it's called Bright Sky Blue. So you still need two strands of it. So let's get started. To begin our third piece for this bag, we're going to start with the blue, and we're going to need a little tail for the magic circle. Yarn over, take your hook and go through the center and bring up a loop, and then chain and tighten that chain around that loop, and then chain one. And if your tail is wrapped up around that circle, go ahead and straighten it out. We're going to place 10 single crochets into our magic circle. So continue until you get 10 magic single crochets on your magic circle, and I'll show you what to do next. After you get your 10, leave yourself a little tail and go ahead and cut your yarn, and then take the tail of the magic circle. Let's pull it tight. Do not cut your tail of your magic circle. You don't want it to come apart. Now into the first single crochet, not the chain one, but the first single crochet, go ahead and do a slip stitch. Yes, with your little piece of yarn, because this is how we're going to close it off. Okay, so here we have our beginning of our third piece. Go ahead and bring up your beige, and we will start there. So let's place a slip knot on our hook, and place your finger on the loop, yarn over, and we're going to start off with a standing double crochet. So just pick up one of those single crochets from your magic circle and get your yarn situated. Okay, so bring up a loop. You now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over through 2 and yarn over through 2, and you have 1 standing double crochet. So chain 1, and in our next space, double crochet, chain 1. Alright, do this for a total of 8 times around this, and I'll meet you at the end. After you've completed the 8 double crochets, the last one, obviously we don't chain 1, but we will chain 1. We just need to, I want you to visually see that it does go straight across. Even though you have this little loop, it'll take care of itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Now in the double crochet, and in the chain one space we're going to add single crochets. So one single crochet for the double crochet, and in the chain one space 2 single crochets. Okay, so we've created 3. Now we're going to do 3 again for the next, double crochet chain 1. So we got 1 and then 2. Okay, so continue that around. When you get to the end, you finish your last single crochet. I'll show you what to do. Whoops. Before we move on, you'll notice that we do have our tails. Please do not cut those. We're going to use those to sew on our button and finish other things that we will need for the center. So here at the end of the row, we're going to place 1 single crochet in that first standing double crochet that we had from the beginning, and then we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and turn your work. Okay, so we're going to skip this first one right here, and in the second one we're going to place 1 double crochet, chain 2, skip the next one, and in the following one, 1 double crochet. And this time we're going to chain 1. So you're going to find that in the curvature here, we're going to chain 2 and then chain 1. I found that chaining 1 was making it too tight and chaining 2 was making it too loose. Some of the things we encounter. So we're chaining 1. We're going to start a new repeat now. So we're going to skip 1 stitch, and in the next stitch place a double crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, skip the next stitch, and in the following one, 1 double crochet, chain 1. Okay, it will look different, but it's all going to be hidden underneath the next stitch that we're going to do. So skip the next one, double crochet, chain 2, skip the next stitch, in the next one, double crochet, chain 1. Alright, finish the rest of the row to here, and I'll meet you there. Go ahead and pause your video. My last one was a chain 1 with a double crochet, and that took us all the way around. So this completes our curve that we need, so we can go ahead and cut our yarn and finish this off. The next color that I will be using is blue. So before moving on, I'm going to take this blue that I left out and I'm going to weave it in and make it part of this here, and I will use that to hold my button down when I get to that final point. And in the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and take the beige and I'm going to weave it in to the single crochet. I like to do 2 rows at least, so, and go over 1. Okay, so I'll do the other side as well. I encourage you to weave in your ends at this time, and then we can move on. Let's begin the fun part of this little belt bag that we're working on. So let's put a slip knot on our hook. Oh, I guess you can see my hands. Remember, I am a pipe fitter in the shipyard and I do a lot of work, but I like my nails to look nice. And I don't have my wedding rings on. I got bit by a mosquito. I was waiting for it to heal. It itched so bad. So, hopefully you'll see my pretty nails instead of my torn up hands from emery cloth and handling heavy metal pipe. But I enjoy my crochet. So let's begin. With our slip knot, we want to come to the top of that chain 3. Now we're going to do something a little different that you're not going to think is right, but this will help balance the design that we're going to do. So bear with me and you'll see what I'm talking about when we're finished. So let's chain 4. Okay, and in the second chain, so not the one on the hook, not the first one, but the second chain, place 1 single crochet. And over the last 2, I would like for you to place 3 single crochets. So that means you're going to go around the chains. So here's 1 and 2 and 1 more. Alright, and in our chain 1 space, 1 single crochet. So this is what we have so far. You're thinking, what is this for? When we make our first loop, I'll show you what it's for. It's basically to go over it and give it the balance that we need to complete so that the other side will have the same thing. So let's chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And going back to our first chain, I would like for you to pick up 2 parts of that chain, and we're going to do a slip stitch. Okay, now bring the loop over the top of your working yarn that's in your finger here. Bring it over. Okay, I hope that made sense. Let me show you what I did again. Okay, I had, since I'm right-handed, I have my chain on my right side. I just completed the slip stitch. I tightened the loop on my hook. Now I'm going to bring the hook in front of me and I'm going to take the chain loop and go over the top of the yarn, and my hook is always still on top, closest to me. Okay? Then I'm going to come underneath and draw up a loop and complete a single crochet. We want to put 10 single crochets in total around this chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, and if you need to, work them around a little bit. Then back to where we created our first single crochet, we want to place another single crochet, and that completes our first loop. Alright, let's do our second loop. So we're going to go to our next chain space, which has 2 chains in it. We're just going to do a single crochet straight from 1 single crochet over that double crochet into the chain 2 space, another single crochet, and we're going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And go back to that first chain, insert your hook, draw up a loop, and pull that loop through the loop. We're doing a completed slip stitch. Tighten it up. Okay, keep your hook in front of you. Bring the chain over your yarn. Okay, and then take the hook and go through the center of the chain and draw up a loop and complete your first single crochet. Let's do 9 more for a total of 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And I know you're wondering, why is she still talking? Because I'm going to show you what we're going to do. When you have a chain 2, you need to place 2 loops on your chain 2. If you have a chain 1, you just place 1 loop. So since this is a chain 2, we want to place another single crochet into that chain 2 space. You want to do your chain 8, okay, and go ahead and complete it, and then pull it over, place your single crochet in that chain 2 space, and then go directly to your chain 1. Alright, you're going to do that all the way around until you get here to the end, and I'm going to show you how to complete it by making our little tail again. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way around. Pause your video and I'll meet you there. Yours looks like mine, I'm sure, right? All these loops and oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Well, I'm almost done. Let's keep on going. We have a few more to do. So now we have this huge loopy thing. Looks nice, doesn't it? Okay, so after we finished our last single crochet, you want to single crochet into that last double crochet. Let's put it up here. Okay, and then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And just like we did on the other side, we're going to skip the first chain. In the second one, place 1 single crochet, and then 3 single crochets over the chain. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and then I'm going to have you chain 1, because we're going to skip this single crochet here and go back into that same space, make a single crochet. We are now going to go across the top row here. So single crochet in the end of that double crochet, trying to make it so it'll be just as straight as possible. So this next stitch, you want a single crochet, and along this double crochet right here, we're going to place a half double crochet. So I'm going to head to the middle of that stitch. You're going to have to play with the yarn just a little bit. Alright, and then in the next one, which is the bottom of the stitch here, I'm going to place a double crochet. Okay, that made us a nice little straight ridge here so far. And over the next 2 stitches from our center, we're going to place half double crochets. Might be a little tight depending on where you put your knot at. Okay, and then in the next stitch we'll be doing the same thing as we did over here. So we'll do 1 double crochet, 1/2 double crochet, okay, play with that just a little bit, okay, and then a single crochet. So I want to go here and then a single crochet into the single crochets, alright, and then a single crochet into that chain stitch, okay. I'm going to chain 1 to kind of help cover that, and then I'm going to go into that space right there and do a slip knot. Alright, and then I'm going to leave a nice little tail so I can sew that in. Alright, this is our completed third piece. We have a nice straight edge here, our little loops here, and let's clean up our loose ends except for our centerpiece. So let's take these loose ends right here and weave them in. Pause your video. I'll be back with you in a second. I know you're ready for the fun part. Alright, so on our left hand side, let's twist it up, take our top loop and our second loop. So take your second loop and go through the center of your first loop. Okay? Twist it over so that your single crochets are facing and they all look the same. Okay? Now take your third loop and go through the center of your second loop. Pull it to the end, and can you see how we're just kind of taking one and going inside the next one? Okay, and then make sure you get it down and everybody's nice and happy and pretty. And that's what we're going to do all the way around. You see how we get this nice little braid look? So keep on going till you get to the end, and then I'll show you what these little guys are for. Now as you go around, you will have to shape it just a little bit to make sure that everything is even and distributed properly. Now for these last little guys here, what we're going to do is you go through the center. I guess I didn't think all this through. We're going to have to thread our needle. But you're going to take this and you're going to bring it and tack it to the back. So let's thread our needle. And I'll show you how to do this side and the other side. Sorry for not thinking this through properly. I know I'm a bad little girl. So what I'm going to do is, instead of putting knots in, I'm only using one strand of yarn. I am going to weave it back and forth a little bit to help lock it in. Okay, so this will hold it. Now I'm going to come up here. Okay, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over, and where that single crochet and the chain stitch is, I'm going to go through the center of that and I'm going to hold it down. And I'm going to take up a couple of loops to make sure it stays down. There's one. There's two. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and back through just the section of blue. I'm going to weave it 3 times, so that was 1, That one was 2, and here's number 3. Alright, so that's what that looks like, so that we have a finished edge. So to kind of give this one the same effect, you want to twist it just a little bit, and then, well, you can do it this way too. Go back through the center and then come over the top, and that'll help balance it out and give it the same look on both sides. So like I showed you here, take the back edge and go twist it down so that the same look of the single crochet is on the top, matching the others, and then go ahead and weave it in and sew it down as I showed you. And this will be the front, and we will sew our bag together here in just a few minutes. Now, doesn't this look pretty? And for mine, I'm using a little red button, and I see they have all these nice ways of making it impossible to get it off. So I'm going to get this off, and let's sew our button on here. So with the correct needle that will fit through the eye of your button shank hole, which I had to play around a little bit, I found a needle that would fit through. Okay, so we're going to keep these other pieces of yarn back there, and I'm going to make a needle go through the center front. Pick it up and go through. Now if you can go through twice, that would be the ideal thing. If you can only go through once, you might want to get out some needle and thread. So I'm going to try it twice. So I picked up, I'm going to thread another loop through that button shank. Hallelujah, I did it. And we're going to tighten that shank down, and on the back, okay, we're going to take the 2 and the 2 and just make a square knot. This will hold off our magic circle and hold off everything else. There we go. And you want to show that magic circle who's boss by going as tight as you can and then cutting it off, but using a little 1/4 inch or so. There we go. We are now ready to sew on our pieces to make our bag, and then we have one more crochet project left to do, and that's to sew on the channel to hold it onto your belt. I've gone wider on the screen, and I got my stitch markers out. We're going to start with our back piece here, and so I'm going to encourage you to pull out some more. I'm going to use my green ones here. Alright, this doesn't matter anymore, so you can take those out of your side piece here. Alright, you want to take this and fold it in half, and I would like for you to put a stitch marker where it's half, on the top and on the bottom. Don't close it just yet, just place it in there. Remember, it's doubled yarn, so it's probably going to show you who's boss. Okay. And on our little back piece, remember the first one we made, fold that in half and place a stitch marker there. I think you're getting the idea of what we're going to do. And we're going to line up the two places here. You can take one of those stitch markers out and bring them together. Alright, then the end piece here, right here, is going to go where this stitch marker is. Okay, so we're going to open up this stitch marker and we're going to join that first and that row. Okay, and then you're going to do the same to the other side. Okay, so bring it around so that the stitch marker and the end line up. Undo your stitch marker and join those two together. Okay, and can you see how they come together here and come together here? I would like for you to place another one at that curve. These are kind of like pins holding it in place in a sense, because what we're going to do is we're going to sew them together. Okay, so just going to go down the edge and there we go. Okay, so here's what we have. The other side will look like this. So let's go ahead and thread our needle with 2 strands of the gold, and we'll start sewing. So we're going to start by weaving in on the side here so that we don't have any knots. And you're going to finish the same way on the other side as well. Okay. And I'm going to go across here a few stitches. Oh, my strand is probably about 20 inches. Okay, so I'm going to bring it out here. Even though we have this, I'll weave that in later, probably on a different row. Alright, so we want to pick up this first stitch and this stitch, and we can take out our stitch marker. And you want to loop it at least twice. Because when you make stuff and you have what is considered a stress area, you want to make sure that you have enough that'll hold it in place. Okay, so I'm going to go down into this hole again, and then I'm going to come across and pick up to the other side. Okay, so basically we're doing kind of like what is considered a whip stitch. But you want to kind of keep it close together, and as you go around, you see how this is here, so you're going to ease that in and work it along this edge right here. You go all the way around, you get to the other side, and you're going to finish it the same way we started here. So go ahead and do that, and make sure your stitches are nice and snug, not tight, and I'll see you when you get to the other side. Pause your video. Now you can see that we sewed around here, which to me is going to be on the inside, because look at what's in here. Isn't that pretty? So we're going to take it and flip it inside out. Alright, now remember, when we do this, you're going to take your side piece and fold it in half. So part of this will be up here. Okay, and also these 5 across will get folded in half as well. So this is what the back of our bag looks like. Here's the side, and so when we take this and fold it in half again, here's the front, and we're going to lay it down. You see it's going to kind of curve in a little bit, and that's okay. Alright, so here's the front of our bag. Let's get ready to add our piece. Alright, so I have placed the blue yarn on my needle, and I'm going to make about 20 inches here. Okay, and so we're going to do basically the same thing but a little bit different. So you want to fold it in half, and it will be kind of stiff. This is the reason why I'm using the green ones. So I'm going to put it on the outside where my loop is, because that's halfway, and this ridge right here, or the center of our loops, will go along this edge right here. So I'm going to line this up here and the edge up here. And you know what to do. You're going to have to line them up and ease that in, and you're going to do your basic running stitch. Now if you're going to sew it, you can go over the center of these, because you can see how the loops, make sure your loops correspond, and you can pick up the back, and you're going to have to be, you can sew it this way as you go around. Alright, I know you can do it. Go ahead and do it. I showed you how to start it, so you're going to weave in your ends on your blue and then line it up and go around. I hope you feel like the queen of the world right now. This was a pretty involved piece to put on. Of course, I ended up laying mine inside and getting it on just like I told you. Now it's time to see the rewards of all of this fun oh my gosh, doesn't this look pretty? And here's our closure. Alright, kind of looks like a makeup bag or an evening bag, doesn't it? But this is supposed to be a belt bag, so we're going to be adding a couple of loops on the back, or one channel, whichever you decide. I'm going to add 2 small loops, because once I started to think about it, depending on where you put it on, you'd want your belt loop to help hold up the weight of this, which would be in the center. So we're going to place 2 here on the side, and that will 100% complete our bag. So let's get started on that. It will take just a few minutes. I hope you're eyeballing your bag and saying, oh my god, I love this thing, because I look at it and I say, oh my god, I love this. And I want to show you one thing nice. I have a iPhone 8. Isn't that fun? I gotta show you that again. So let's go ahead and do that again. I have an iPhone 8. Yes, sir. And I wanted to show you how nicely it will fit into this bag. Okay, and there's enough to close it and everything. So I had to show you a little fun there. This is how I use my GoPro, and I use my iPhone while doing this. So I showed you a little technical stuff. So let's move on to the straps, and we will, this is fun, I'm having fun with this, and we will complete this bag. Now of course remember that we will be making 2 of these, but I'm going to show you how to make 1. So make it, here, I gotta sneeze, sorry. Sorry about that. Make it so that you have about a 10-12 inch tail, and let's place our slip knot on here. Okay, we're going to make a chain of 7 or 8. Let's say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and in the second second chain from the hook, single crochet, and you're going to want to single crochet for 5 rows. That should give us about 2 inches, or double check. You want at least 1.5 inches, 2 inches, depending on the size belt that you use. And you also want it to be big enough to hold whatever weight that you do put in it. Chain 1 turn, we're going to have 6 across, so go ahead and do that till you have about 2 inches. Whoops, let me bring my fingers down, which will be about 5 rows. Finish it off, make a second one. So for those of you that want to continue and make this belt bag a belt bag, let's go ahead and thread our needle. Remember, we have these long tails. Here's mine. I did 5 rows. So they're going to go right here on the back, but I'm going to put them along. Remember this, the last row? We need it down here along this row right here. So I'm just going to do a basic whip stitch. Okay, and since this will be on the back, you want to leave this open and this end open. So we're going to stitch across here. The other row will stitch across the bottom. Do that for the other side and we'll have completed our bag. I hope you've completed the journey that you have taken with me on making this small belt bag. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make some as gifts for your friends. I've enjoyed having you with me during this time. I hope you join me again for some more videos, some more ideas that I have in making crochet projects. Thank you so much for being with me. Bye-bye.